This photo is terrifying, but not for the reason you think. Sure, it does look like Abraham Lincoln is giving his wife a back massage from the afterlife, and that is spooky. But this woman here, Mary Todd Lincoln, was into some really witchy stuff and is the reason that the White House is haunted. Let me explain. And before we dive in, tonight's episode is all about hauntings of the White House, so you don't want to miss it. So when the Lincolns were in the White House, their youngest son, Willie, died of typhoid fever. He was only 11 when he died, and Mary, who was already suffering from mental health issues, was inconsolable when he died. And in her grief and desperation, she started holding seances in the White House. At first, they were harmless. She would just conjure the ghost of Willie, whose ghost actually still haunts the White House today. But then they started getting out of control, and Mary was calling all sorts of ghosts into the White House. Guests would hear stomping and swearing come from nowhere. One person said they even heard Andrew Jackson playing the violin once. And the White House stayed haunted after she stopped doing these seances. When William Howard Taft was president, his aides said that they were being tormented by a ghost they called the Thing. And one woman who thought she saw it actually said it looked like a young boy. So when you see this photo, it may look like a gag, but Mary was up to some really witchy stuff in the White House. Be sure to tune in tonight for more spooky stories and history.
Nah, because what the hell is this?
This fell out of my burger. Thought it was mail until I seen it moving. What is this?
Lavender Town. Pokemon is a very well-known adventure game that shaped the childhoods of multiple generations. They had books, TV shows, movies, merchandise, just about everything you can think of, they had. So why am I talking about such a positive, adventurous family video game on this channel? This is because of one of the darkest stains on Pokemon's legacy, Lavender Town. You see, Lavender Town was an urban legend surrounding a town that was in the best Pokemon game, Pokemon Red. You see, the whole Pokemon Red game had a very adventurous, fun vibe around it. You would hear happy songs and you'd see a lot of fun people and just battle against other Pokemon trainers. But the entire vibe changed once you entered Lavender Town. There's a gigantic graveyard within the city, and above all else, once you step into the city, you're greeted by a haunting song. And this song is actually the center for this entire urban legend, because it was reported that this song actually caused 100 Japanese children to themselves in the spring of 1996, which was around the release of this amazing game. Now, it's commonly believed that this was just a myth, but I guess we'll never really know the secrets behind.
Let's talk about one of the creepiest films out on YouTube right now, The Chair. This movie has been compared to Ari Aster films. Like, you know, the director of Hereditary, Midsommar, you know, all those mind-bending films. But this film, The Chair, is already at 2 million views within the span of a couple months. And people in the comments are already praising this film. This 24-minute film directed by Curry Barker is about a man that picks up a chair on the side of the road, brings it back home, and then a bunch of creepy stuff starts happening. It's a simple premise, but with an incredibly creepy execution. And I'm telling you, when I watched this, there were a couple scenes that I had to pause and kind of think about it for a second. Just because some of the scenes in this film are so out of pocket. If you want a short, good psychological horror film, check out The Chair. It's out on YouTube right now. It is completely free and it is by an independent director. If you've already seen it, let me know what you think. And if you haven't, please go watch it. It's probably one of my favorite YouTube horror films out right now. Besides Portrait of God, but that's for another video.
Have you heard the theory that Goodnight Moon is actually a ghost story? Some people believe that the old lady whispering hush in the corner is actually a ghost, and that the young rabbit in the bed in reality is terrified of her. Which, to be fair, it does look like this guy's freaking out. The theory is that he's going around naming everything in the room until she disappears. Other people believe that the rabbit is actually dead, and he's going around the room saying goodbye to everything in this life before he leaves it forever. Maybe to be led away by the old lady whispering hush, who is really the Grim Reaper. It's making me want to reread the book to see if I can ever read it in the same light ever again.
This is a true horrifying story, part 25.
Our TikTok star over here, Ibrahim K.A., ladies and gentlemen, yes? Ibrahim, TikTok star. By the way, you guys need to go to TikTok and follow this motherfucker, Ibrahim.Ka. Reason is because he's got this series called Horror Series. He comes on TikTok and he says, here's a true horrifying story. And that's his fucking catchphrase. Every video, this is a true horrifying story. It's a great fucking tagline. I always wondered where he got it from. He told me in private conversations that because every time I pull my fucking pants down, every woman I meet says, this is a true horrifying story.
The story that I'm about to share is so triggering to me. I honestly have no idea how I've never heard it before. Now, this is Naisy Perez. At 16 years old and 3 months pregnant, she suddenly collapsed one night, which led to her being buried alive. This story took place in Honduras. One night, Naisy woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom when she suddenly collapsed. When her family found her, being that they were extremely religious and she was foaming at the mouth, they assumed that she had been a victim of a demonic possession. They decided to take her to the local priest so he could perform an exorcism. After the exorcism was performed and there was no type of reaction coming from Naisy, they decided to take her to the hospital. Unfortunately, by the time they arrived, she was pronounced dead. Her distraught family put a funeral together and decided to bury her. Now, the coffin that Naisy was buried in had a glass in the front for viewing purposes. They said their goodbyes. They actually put her in her wedding gown. She had just recently been married. She was buried in her wedding gown, and then they put her in one of those cement blocks where they pushed the coffin in and then cement it shut. 24 hours after the funeral, her heartbroken husband decided to go visit her grave. When he laid his head against the concrete, he could hear some faint cries. He really thought that his head was playing tricks on him until a nearby maintenance person also heard the screams. He quickly ran over to her family's house where they all rushed back to the cemetery and decided to break her open. When they pulled out her coffin, they saw that the glass had been broken and her hands and face were covered in scratches. They felt that she had a faint pulse, so they decided to take her back to the hospital. But unfortunately, Naisy was then pronounced dead, now a second time.
Let me see. I'll know if she's my dog. Merlin, sit. Turn around. Turn around. Lay down. You're not my dog. My dog don't know how to do no fucking trick. The fuck? Call 911. Hey!
Bom dia, flor do dia.
I know I'm not fucking tripping. What the fuck?
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. Due to the brain's lack of pain receptors, brain surgery is often performed while the patient is awake and talking. And in some cases of brain surgery, the surgeon will pull your face forward like a banana. Men's nipples can be stimulated enough to produce milk. Once you turn 30 years old, you can expect to lose half an inch every 10 years. When you developed in the womb, your anus was formed before anything else. So at one point, you were nothing but an asshole. The acid in your body is strong enough to dissolve razor blades, which is why your stomach is in a constant battle to not digest itself. When you get a sunburn, your cells are dying to avoid becoming cancerous. A sneeze can blow out of your nose at over 100 miles an hour. So next time, be careful, because it's actually possible to break a rib simply by sneezing. If you've ever been on a roller coaster and feel like your heartbeat is in your mouth, it isn't your imagination, your organs are actually moving around inside your body.
Here are a list of disturbing facts. For no particular reason, I'm just into this stuff. Number 1, any major birthmarks that you have in this lifetime are where you have been killed in your past life. Number 2, your body is at its weakest at 3 a.m. That is considered the devil's hour. Number 3, strangers that you see in your dreams are actual people that you have met in your past life. Number 4, going along with the whole dream thing, if you remember a dream, it wasn't actually a dream, it was a message. We generally don't remember our dreams, so if we remember them, it's because we were supposed to. Number 4, this was more on the scientific side, but it's still pretty creepy to me. Lack of sleep will cause your brain to start eating itself. Look it up. I think we're at number 6. If you wake up and you feel like something's staring at you in the room, it is 100% someone staring at you in the room, and it's usually a D word. And number 7, I can do a part 2 if you guys are really into this. If you Google these coordinates, I'll put them right here, you can see a man dragging a body into a lake.
Disturbing facts that school never taught you. During the 1936 Olympic Games, Adolf Hitler was in the crowd watching Jesse Owens and he was shaking. At the time, people thought he was shaking because he was nervous or excited, but no, it turns out the reason he was shaking is because he was so high off of meth. Like in this video, he's actually tweaking. The average person comes into contact with 14 glizzies per day, and that's due to men not washing their hands in the bathroom. Okay, this one you're not going to believe, but I will literally show you the government document to prove it. Half of all cats carry a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii, so by extension, most cat owners also have this parasite. So inside us humans, this parasite is either hiding in our brain or somewhere in our central nervous system. And the crazy thing is, it will stay there for decades. Now, the parasite that is in me and probably in you has been linked to entrepreneurship. So a lot of people who got this parasite, most of them started their own businesses. So this might not be a bad thing. If you open your jaw as big as you can and then crunch down as hard as you can, you will shatter every single one of your teeth. Your brain is just stopping you from doing this, and close your mouth. I know you just tried it. Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
So I had no idea how common it was to actually see supernatural beings during car wrecks, but so many of you guys had crazy stories. It reminds me of this story from 9/11 about the last guy that made it out of the South Tower who was led out by a person that wasn't there. But before we get into it, if you're interested in these kinds of stories, I just did a whole podcast episode about them. So Ron DeFrancesco was on the 84th floor of the South Tower, right in this area on 9/11. He survived the impact, but he runs to a stairwell because he knows he has to get out of the building. But when he opens up the stairwell, people are running up, not down. So he starts going up, but he gets a feeling that they're not going to make it out if they go up. So around floor 91, he turns around and he starts heading down. But in the stairwell, there's smoke and debris and fire everywhere. And also there's just people passed out all around him. So he thinks he's about to die when all of a sudden he hears his voice go, "Get up, keep going." He kind of thinks at first it's a fireman, but no rescue teams had made it up that high just yet. So he gets up and he starts going down, and this voice is pointing out where the debris and the fire is, making sure that he's safe the whole way. And then once he's in the clear, it just disappears. Ron was the last person to make it out of the tower, and he fully credits this supernatural being.
Scary Places in the Netherlands Part 11. Close to the Amstel, a few minutes walk from the Rembrandtplein, stands a building known as the House of Bloodstains. This eerie name refers to the red scribbles on the exterior of the building, red letters in an archaic handwriting and Kabbalistic symbols, a drawing of a three-master, a sloppy pentagram and an octagram. The red markings are said to have been put there by former Mayor Coenraad van Beuningen 1622 to 1693, who lived in the house at the end of the 17th century. He would supposedly walk along the river, screaming and ranting, dressed in a dirty nightgown, and scribbling on the wall with his own blood, until his own servants overpowered him and dragged him back inside, back to the solitary and locked up existence that he led there. On some nights, the story goes, you can still hear his insane laughter echoing.